One of the things that intrigued me about how OddsJam compares to some of the background that I have in the financial industry, in the financial markets, is there's a parallel in how we make trades with a sports book to how we make trades of stock or any kind of financial instrument on a stock exchange or financial market. Now, there's some differences, and so we want to cover that today and understand how these compare so that we can understand ultimately how we're going to drive a strategy that will allow us to make money because of some of these idiosyncrasies. Now, first off, stock exchanges are heavily computerized, right? Heavily computerized and heavily connected. So if you think of each exchange is effectively a place where a buyer and a seller meet up and decide to make a trade of the ownership of a particular security for a exchange of a financial consideration for cash. And in a stock exchange, and this literally started with people like literally meeting at a physical location to put these things together. Well, now it's all computerized, but the concept's still the same. But it's interesting. So the exchange, each individual exchange will have the facilitator, which is the exchange itself, and then you'll have a buyer and a seller. And those are two different people or organizations that are acting in their own interests to make that transaction possible. Compare that to each sports book out in the world is a separate entity that is also facilitating transactions, but they are typically not facilitating a third-party transaction where there's a separate buyer and a separate seller and then a separate facilitator. They are actually serving as the counterparty to you, the bettor, right? Us bettors out there, we bet against the house, just like you would in a typical casino, right? Where if you think about, if you want to do a casino analogy, a traditional stock exchange is more like when you have a live poker table at a casino where you have the dealer who's an employee of the casino, and then you have all the players playing, and they are playing against each other, and then they throw a little bit of VIG or house advantage or fee to the casino for hosting the game. But the casino doesn't really care who wins or loses in the poker game. But if you're playing at a blackjack table, it's you against the casino, right? Sports betting's like that. You're you against the casino. And in doing that, each sports book has a separate collection of assets that they are managing the risk for. And this becomes important to realize is that when you are a separate entity betting on behalf of yourself, so the sports book is saying, I'm going to take all of the action I can get at the prices that I've set. They are going to set prices so that they can manage their own risk and their own portfolio of bets that they have and the liabilities they have if the bets win. They're going to manage that in a way that is as effective for them as possible. Let's go back to the stock exchange. The stock exchange, like that poker table, they're facilitating these transactions all over the place. Don't really care who's winning or losing on that. They're just facilitating. So because of that, all of the exchanges, there's many financial exchanges out there. All of these exchanges are connected via wires, via the internets on the back end. And so anytime there's different groups of people doing different things with those securities and they're buying and selling, you're going to have the information shared kind of instantaneously, and you're going to have kind of one price for every security. Because what's going to happen is because everything is so interconnected with stock exchanges, you're going to have, anytime you buy a security in one place, all of the other buyers and sellers that are in any of the other exchanges are going to immediately know about it. And so all of the prices are going to just kind of combine and converge to a singular price. So that all happens extremely quickly in the financial markets. Everything's connected, everything auto reacts, and everything is filtering in all the activity from all the other places. Compare back to the sports books. The sports books are completely separate. Now, there's some that are sharing back ends, and for all intents and purposes, they're the same book with just different windows to them, white labels on the front of it. Consider those individual sports books, right? So even though, for example, BetRivers and Barstool are different sports books from a consumer-facing perspective, on the back end, it's kind of all the same. They're using the same back end effectively. That's why you'll see the same odds and the same limits on those two books. Anyway, sportsbooks are all independent and trading on their own behalf and not inclined to share their information, because the whole value proposition of a sports book is to be able to provide new and interesting and unique bets to the bettors out there. And so it's the prices, the odds that they're setting for these trades, or for the events and the bets that are happening. That's kind of proprietary to each book. So they're actually disincentivized to share that information widely. This becomes really important for us when we want to become a sharp sports bettor, because we are going to be looking at an understanding of, can we figure out what the true market price would be if all of these books were connected and all the flow of trades were going to be combined, kind of like a stock exchange would. Because the beauty with sports books is that you can't connect in the back end. You can't do algorithmic trading at a sports book. They'd throw you out so quick, they would ban you immediately. So that's not possible. So it's a much less liquid market. It moves slower across these different books because there's designs to keep that information separate. So when we can consolidate all of that information through a tool like OddsJam, we can now see, what are the prices at all of these different sports books? And are there any prices that are so far removed from what we think those prices should be that we should go over to that particular exchange or that particular sports book to make that trade or bet in that particular case? And so now we can do that. And since we're still using electronics, we're still using our phones or computers to bet these sports, we can move fairly quickly. Like, we don't have to drive across town to the casino to go place the bet. We can actually look at all the information and then say, oh, I need to go place this bet at Caesars, or I should go play this bet at DraftKings, or what have you. So now you can do that, but there's some additional challenges to that. We'll talk about those in other videos. But in this case, what we see is that a sports book is not connected on the back end like stock exchanges or financial exchanges. It is trading on its own behalf as opposed to being a facilitator. And those two dynamics especially contribute to a wider variety of prices than you would ever see in the stock markets. And so that's where we're going to ultimately have an advantage by being able to look across all of that, assess what is truth, or what should the prices actually be if all that information were widely shared, and then find new opportunities, or find opportunities where we can take an action. We can make a bet where we have a mathematical advantage because we see more in terms of what is truth than what individual sports books are. And what's crazy about this is that the sports books should be glad we're doing it. Because even though we will make money on individual transactions, we are actually providing a service to the sports books because they are in the business of managing risk. They're collecting all of these bets and they want to be able to say, I don't want too much exposure in this area. So if they change the price a little bit to where they can get flow of betting activity, which will come in the form of sharp bettors coming in and saying, hey, we'll take some of that action. When they do that, they can offset the risk that they may have because maybe they're a geographically isolated book that has, the example I like to use is like, what if you're an East Coast U.S. heavy book and a lot of your customers come from that, and you're taking in a lot of action on the New York Giants or the Philadelphia Eagles in football season? Well, how do you offset that? You can change the line a little bit, but if everybody in Philly is still betting the Eagles no matter what, you may end up really exposed, and there's not enough people coming in to say, hey, we'll take the other side of that. Now, with sharp bettors out there, people like us who are saying, hey, we're just looking for good opportunities to put money in a place where it's offsetting that casino's risk in a way that they'll happily pay for that offsetting amount, and we're happy to make a profit based on the likelihood that the event will occur compared to the price that we're paying. All of a sudden, this is a great exchange for everybody. Now, some of the casinos or some of the sportsbooks don't always see it that way, and they will try to limit the action of sharp bettors because they see it as a threat. But in reality, that liquidity, their ability to then have a result based on changing those prices, it's actually doing them a bit of a service. Now, granted, service we're making some money on, but hey, just like any service, you should be able to get paid for your work. So that's where this is all heading as a sharp sports bettor is to realize we are going to be fluid in the kinds of bets we're making, the locations of the bets that we're making. We're not going to try to predict the outcome of an event. We're just going to react to what does all of the information tell us that this event is likely to end up as, 20% this one team versus 80% the other team, or whatever that bet could be, 50-50, 60-40, who knows? But the data will tell us what the market collectively thinks the likelihood of an event is, and we will take action when there's prices that are skewed far enough to either side. And most bets, any bet, there is a price at which either side of a bet is attractive to a sharp bettor. And so that's what we're going to learn about in this Become a Sharp Sports Bettor series. But I wanted to start with just drawing a parallel between sportsbooks and financial stock exchanges so you can understand a couple of the differences and a couple of the similarities, because we're going to build a lot of knowledge on top of that. So with that, we'll end this video. Keep on looking out for more videos to come, and we will continue this series and add videos daily until we have the full breadth of them all complete. And in the meantime, live stream daily, Monday through Friday, and on the weekends when available. And take a look at all the other videos. And then if you go to atrainbetsoddsjam.com, you can find all of OddsJam's content, which is a tremendous amount. So keep building that knowledge, keep using OddsJam, and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
What you gonna